Americans up. He's always there, fighting for freedom over land and air. G.I. Joe!
Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. What we are taking a look at today is something that I am not very familiar with. This is the G.I. Joe Classified series Cobra Shadow Tracker. Now, I believe this character, this figure, first appeared in the Pursuit of Cobra line. I forget how long ago that was, but it was a line that I never really got into, and I believe that was Shadow Tracker's first appearance. So while this character, this figure, isn't new to G.I. Joe, it's new to me, and I'm kind of excited about that, because just like what we had with Wolf Spider and Shooter, and even the Python Patrol version of Vipra, I love getting these new, at least to me, characters and figures in the line. So this is following that trend that has been happening recently, and I'm kind of excited about that. This is a Walmart exclusive. This was part of the Walmart Collectors Con, and at time of recording, when I checked online, there are still Shadow Trackers available on Walmart's website. I will leave a link to him in the description below if you want to pick one up for yourself. And while you're checking out that link in the description below, if you like G.I. Joe, go ahead and leave the video a like as well. It helps a small channel like mine get out there in the algorithm, because that's a wasteland that nobody knows how to navigate. Now, on to this. We have some really nice packaging with this. We have a great shot of him in the jungle with his bow. This shot of the figure right here, I love this. And then we have this graphic, this image of him over here. And I believe this green mask is from the original figure. I believe that's where it first appeared. I think the skull mask that comes with him is new. Not entirely sure about that. Like I said, first experience with him. On the side, we have a larger image that we saw up front. On this side, we have the QR code, another image of him. And then on the back, we have the figure, all of his gear, and then some highlights of the figure to take a look at. The skull image on his shoulder and the teeth hanging off of his belt. And honestly, with this skull up here and this green mask, I'm getting like, I don't know, Mandalorian vibes out of it. Is that what he was based off of? Boba Fett was big at the time, so they decided to put him in Cobra? I don't know, but let's find out. So without further ado, let's open up this box and take a look at G.I. Joe Classified Series Shadow Tracker. Okay, here he is, Shadow Tracker, out of the box, and putting the tape measure to him, we can see he is approximately 6.5 inches tall to the top of his head. Now, getting a closer look at him, there is actually a lot of reuse with Shadow Tracker. And I'm not surprised that there is reuse, because these Walmart exclusives tend to have a fair amount of reuse to them. But there's more reuse to this figure than I was expecting, because to first look at him, he looks completely unique. But when we get a better look at him, these are Zartan's legs. There's a lot of reuse from Zartan for this figure. You can see the legs are reused, and the upper arms are reused, because you see how he has this band on his bicep. You flip up his armor pad, Zartan has that band as well. Now, I don't know what the torso looks like underneath this vest that he's wearing, but I'd be willing to bet that it's the same torso as Zartan. One of the things that they did change that I appreciate is... stand up, Zartan. One of the things that they changed that I appreciate is if you move this belt down, he doesn't have the bull skull belt or the ram skull belt that Zartan has. That's still uniquely Zartan's. So I appreciate that they changed the crotch piece in here. So we have legs, probably torso, and upper arms that are reuse. The face sculpt, which we'll be getting to in a second, is obviously new. And the crotch piece is probably reused from something else, but I'm not entirely sure what. It just looks like a generic crotch piece, to be honest. Could have come from Duke, could have come from Cobra Troopers, could have come from anything. But also, I believe these lower arms, the forearms, are new as well. Maybe not so much able to see it on this one, but this one right here with the bones sculpted into it, I believe these are new. So with a lot of reuse and obviously some different skin tones, much like with Wolf Spider, they managed to make a really, really cool looking new figure for the line. Now, let's bring him up closer and look at this face sculpt. That's the face sculpt. He has the mask on. It's just sort of stuck to his face. When we saw the promotional shots, like on Hasbro Pulse and Walmart, I assumed this was a third mask, and it kind of is a third mask, but it doesn't come off. It's part of the sculpt, and we don't get to see what he looks like underneath. And I'm fine with that. Like, as far as I'm concerned, this is his face, and that's freaking awesome. It is just grotesque. He has a bone necklace right here, a lot of bone motifs. He has this shoulder pad over here with a skull on it. The vest he's wearing, I believe, is new, and I really like the texturing that it has. A nice leather look to it, like Crocmaster as well. I really like that. And then this skirt piece that he has right here is new. And I really dig the paint job that they did to it. Not just to the rope going around the waist, not just to the bones hanging off of it, but you can see the spotted pattern of the panther in that. They actually painted the spots in, which is a really cool touch. I hope you can see that through the camera, but you see like all those shiny bits right there? That's like the panther spotting, and I really dig that. Also, we got a little bit of a flame job down here on his boots, which is cool. Zartan has those as well, but his aren't painted. They're just there. With Shadow Tracker, they went ahead and painted them, and I like that as well. So it's already easy enough to see that with his articulation, being Zartan, he's going to have all the same articulation. That even with these long dreads, he can do a full 360. They just tend to get in the way. Oh, and the head came off. Let's pop that back on. But that's another thing. Let's take a look at these dreads now that we're talking about it. I dig this. They're not just black and washed out. There's like a wash in there to give them some depth, to give them some texturing. I like this stray one that's hanging down here. I like the wrap of the dreads around the dreads right there. And there's texture to them. Like you run your finger over it and it's rough like the braids would be. Or the dreads would be. I really like the hair piece they did with him. Now, you saw he does a full 360, but this does tend to get in the way, which also means it's going to get in the way when he tries to look up, but he can look down. There's a tilt side to side as well. You can see the necklace keeps moving. It's hard to get the necklace to just lay where it's supposed to lay around the collar of his vest, because it keeps getting stuck underneath his hair right there. You can see there is a collar right there that the necklace is supposed to go around, but when you play around with him, it eventually rides up and gets caught underneath his hairpiece. The arms will do a full 360 spin. There's a butterfly joint. The arms, mine stick a little right now, but they do come up a little bit past 90. This one will as well. You would think this shoulder pauldron might get in the way, but it's hinged right there. So you can bring his arm up on that side as well. However, it's not connected in the shoulder socket like some of the other Hasbro figures are. So when he does the full 360, it does get in the way when he tries to like reach up. He has the ball joint. His waist will do a full 360. He can crank back. He can crank kind of forward. He has some side-to-side rocker. I believe there is an ab crunch just like on Zartan. That's why I think this is his body underneath the vest. But it's a heavy rubber and tends to get in the way. You can get a little bit out of it, but you're not going to get much movement out of him. He has drop-down hips that will come out to the side, and this is a softer rubber. It will bend up out of the way, or you could even like turn it to get it out of his way. So his leg will come up a little higher. Legs will come forward. Legs will go back. Push it back in. He has a thigh cut, double jointed knees, boot cut, ankles rock back, ankles rock forward, And of course, forward-facing pin for some rocker. And like I said, just like with Wolf Spider, this is a lot of reuse, but gives you a really, really cool figure. I really like Shadow Tracker. I have no connection to this character because, like I said, Pursuit of Cobra I didn't get into, but this is awesome. I'm loving this thing, this character, this figure already. So before we get into the rest of his accessories, let's talk about his masks, because he comes with two of them right here. You can see this one, this translucent greenish yellow one that he comes with, that like I said when we were looking at the box, I believe this is a throwback to his original figure. I think this is the original mask that he was wearing, but it was more of like almost a Cobra Commander, just flat shield, I believe. And then he has this one, which I think is new. I'm not entirely sure. Please correct me if I'm wrong, if he had this with the Pursuit of Cobra line. But this skull mask, this looks great. It's not just stark white. Like, the teeth are a nice bone white, but then the rest of the skull has this weathering, this yellowing to it, and like just these lines on it, this aging done to it to make it look like it's been through some stuff. He scraped some meat off of it. I think that looks really good. And the thing that surprises me the most is there's no band or anything around these to hold it on his face, and it's not like Zartan where he has the cowl that you slip the mask into. Instead, these masks just fit onto that skull face, and they don't come off. That's really good. They stick on there very well, that they just conform to the face mold, the mask mold underneath it. And both of them work like that. They just fit right on there. Look at that. Oh, that looks cool. They both fit right on there and don't come off, which is kind of impressive. This one I really like because it goes with the rest of his skull and bone motif. Like, brings the whole figure together, I feel. Makes him look like something out of Predator or Prey. Like, I really like this look. But then, of course, we do have the translucent one to mimic his original look, which I don't hate this either. I just like this better. But it's kind of cool because if you bring it forward, it's this translucent green that you can see that black skull mask underneath it. And it just gives it like a little bit of like additional intimidation, a bit more of a predatory feel. And even though it's not bone to go along with this, they have this bright like lime green coloring going on to help tie the figure together again. They did a really good job with the colors. Like, I didn't think these colors would work, especially with this bright green mask, but it really ties everything together so that no matter which mask you're using, none of them actually look out of place. And that is really cool, because even if you just use the face sculpt as is, which is kind of terrifying in and of itself, the whole thing works, the whole thing fits together. So now that the masks are out of the way, we're going to take a look at his accessories, and the first one we're going to take a look at is this tomahawk right here. And this is a really cool design. I like this. You can't really see it. There you go, right there. You can see there's even some detail and some sculpt in the blade of the tomahawk. Part of me wishes this had been painted silver. The head of the tomahawk, the blade of the tomahawk had been painted silver. But admittedly, I have, I have a hatchet that has like a black composite handle, and the blade is black too. So I can't really fault them for this. There is like a real world precedent of just having like a completely black hatchet for in the wilderness. I even like there's some really good detail, some sculpting down here on the handle of it too. This is a really nice piece, and this fits in this hip holster right here. That just pops right down in there and hangs off his leg. So we have that right there. And then the next thing we have to take a look at is he has a backpack, and the backpack is going to be what contains the majority of his accessories. That you can see two of them that I left on here already. One is this arrow. for his bow. Now, these arrows are molded in. They don't come out. Okay? This is the only one that comes out. And you can see mine's a little bent, but it has a real nice broadhead on it, too. A hunting broadhead on it. And when you put this on, you can see the peg right there. And you can see how his dreads sort of go off to one side. That when you put this on, turn his head to get the hair out of the way, and then just push the peg in, and you can see how it sits off to the side and even sort of goes in line with this strap on his shoulder right here, making it look like that's what's holding it on. So the quiver fits, the pack fits, and then his hair conforms around the side of it, which is really cool. And then this goes in right, whoop. The arrow bends a little when you try to push it in. So you want to be careful and not try to drive it in too far. Otherwise, you're going to end up bending it. So you want it to be just a little bit higher than the ones that are there. Now, what we also have right here is this. And at first glance, when you look at it, you might think it's a suppressor. But it is not. It is the stabilizer for his compound bow. See that? And his bow is right here. And the stabilizer fits on like so. That is a really complex compound. There is a lot going on right there. Also, it's been a while since I've picked up a bow. Probably since my 20s. I always thought the stabilizers went below the notch. This one is above. I don't know. Tell me if this is the new design. I'm used to them being lower, like right around in here. But that looks cool. I dig that. Now, you take this off, and as you saw, this will fit right in here. I still haven't figured out how the bow fits. It obviously fits in this clip right here somehow, but I'm not entirely sure how. Right now, I'm just kind of doing that and hanging it off of him. I don't know if that's right or not. Another accessory that I almost forgot is this brutal-looking Gurkha. And this looks great. Once again, they painted the blade silver, which I appreciate greatly. And we have a decent sculpt for the handle. I really like the look of this, too. It fits in his hand very well. He looks good carrying it. But this, let's get this out of the way. This I am putting right here with the blade back. See, the stabilizer will fit there, and then the blade will fit there, but it just makes more sense to me to run the blade along the side of the pack. And then snap this in. I think that's how it goes. I'm not entirely sure, but as with all of the Joes, I love that he can just carry everything on him. So something that I wanted to call out about this bow is it's not like the bow that Vipera and Storm Shadow use, where there's a little knock in there and you can actually knock the arrow and keep it clipped in. This doesn't have that. It just has a knock or a shelf that the arrow can ride on. Also, this string, there's no give to this string. It's a piece of plastic. It's not going to be able to pull back. So as you'll see in the photos, whenever you pose him with the bow and you knock it in place, even if he's drawing back, he's not going to be drawing back on the string. But once again, we've seen that with Vipera and Storm Shadow before as well. And now for size comparison, here he is beside Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series Zartan and Crocmaster. Here he is beside Valaverse Action Force Warpath Eclipse and the BotCon exclusive Locust Trooper. Here he is beside Lanyard Toys City Hunter Predator and Xenomorph Drone. Here he is beside Hasbro Marvel Legends Genis Vell and Psylocke from the Nimrod 3-pack. I need a new Psylocke. Here he is beside Jazzware's Spartan Collection Master Chief and Mark IV Spartan. Here he is beside McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse The Suicide Squad Bloodsport and Injustice Deathstroke the Terminator. And finally, here he is beside NECA Toys Dungeons & Dragons Warduke and Grimsword. Coming, as I'm sure, as a surprise to no one, I really like this figure. I might even dare say I love this figure. This is a pleasant surprise to me. Not knowing who the character was, not having any connection to the character, I didn't realize I was going to enjoy this figure this much, especially for being mostly reuse from Zartan. But as we saw with Wolf Spider, as long as the reuse is used in a sort of new, imaginative way, and you can hide that there's a lot of reuse to it, it doesn't really take you out of the enjoyment of the figure, of the character. I feel like a lot of times when we get down on companies that reuse body parts, because all of them do, let's face it, it's because it's just so blatantly that other figure, that there's not a whole lot that they did to hide the fact that, you know, something else was Bucky Cap, or this character is actually just Vulcan. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like with the Classified series, whenever they do reuse body parts, they hide it very well, or just make it look new, just with a new paint deco, a new application, a few accessories, like the armor, the bone motif, and that panther skirting, that panther kilt that he's wearing. That's what you look at when you're looking at Shadow Tracker. You're not looking at, oh, these are Zartan's legs. Oh, these are Zartan's biceps. You're looking at, this is Shadow Tracker, and he's awesome. I don't know much about the character, but when I was reading up on him before I did this review, one thing that stood out was that there's that whole, he eschews modern weapons, so that's why he just has like the bearded axe, the tomahawk, the Gurkha knife, and the compound bow. And I don't hate that, especially in G.I. Joe, where G.I. Joe is just built off of a lot of characters that have little quirks like that, but it still would have been really cool to see him like toting around a high-powered hunting rifle. Especially because Hasbro still hasn't figured out how to make bows work for their figures. I don't hate what they're doing with bow and arrows for their figures, but there's just something about it that it never seems to look right. Especially when we're talking about this figure, because this is one area where the reuse sort of gets in the way. Those are just Zartan's hands that were both just trigger hands. They're not meant to be drawing back on a bow. I don't know if he's actually officially a member of Cobra, or if he's a mercenary, you know, somebody that they just bring in whenever they need a tracker. I don't know that much about the character, but I do love this whole backstory that I'm developing in my head for him, and he is going to be a great addition to the Cobra ranks, especially with the likes of Crocmaster, Zartan, Copperhead. He does, amazingly enough, just fit right in with all the rest of them. Like I said, he is a Walmart exclusive. He was released during the Walmart Collectors Con. Time of recording, he is still available on the Walmart website. I will leave a link down below, so check that out if you want to pick one up for yourself. And until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.